Yeah, so Christoph Kraemer, me and David, so we are part of the ICN engineering team. So I'll give you just a short introduction what we do in general. Right today our talk is about augmented reality in enterprises. And beside augmented reality, which is one of the most hyped topics nowadays actually, and if you ask VC or somebody else here in the Valley, everybody will tell you that this is very, very hot. But beside that, the other part of our team is working on blockchain-related technologies, and what we do in general is we look how we can bring this new upcoming trends, technologies, and types close to the SAP core business and to evaluate it for new business opportunities. And today we're going to talk a little bit about augmented reality in enterprises and what we have learned so far and in general what we are doing. But first of all, for you, I think it's important to distinguish between virtual reality and augmented reality. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about augmented reality. But in general, virtual reality is when you're wearing glasses, when you're completely, or your glasses are completely, or you cannot really see the real world through the glasses except from a camera. So that means you're transformed into a completely computer-generated world. While something like augmented reality still enables you to see the real world, basically means your real world is augmented with digital artifacts. And like half a year ago, we had two streams working on some virtual reality based stuff and some augmented reality based stuff, but we decided to dig a little bit deeper into augmented reality because what augmented reality basically enables you is to turn every single object, every physical object in the world into a screen. And that was the reason why we decided to keep going with augmented reality. And I think one of the most popular examples, or you all have seen, is this video.
Yeah, and that's how augmented reality could look like in a couple of years. This is one of a couple of cool videos produced by Magic Leap. It's a company recently funded with 800 million by companies like Google, Alibaba and Warner Brothers, and they are now valued at 4.5 billion US dollars. But they actually only have those demos. And the big companies really trust in what they are doing, but they haven't really released what they are doing, but everyone is really excited. So, and this also brought like a little more attention onto the augmented reality topic. Yeah, we don't know what they will be releasing as a product, but there are actually some products out there that we in our team actually have used. And we also brought some of them with us. So the first thing when we still worked on virtual reality is the Google Cardboard. You might have already seen it. It's just a little bit of cardboard and you just plug in your regular phone and then you can have like a really cheap virtual reality experience. Also, the Samsung Area is really similar. It's basically like the cardboard, only made of plastic, and for Samsung phones. So if you have a Samsung S6 and a Google Gear VR, you can play 3D games or have other 3D experiences on your phone. And of course there is Oculus by Facebook, which is really a more advanced virtual reality device, but it also needs to be connected to a computer with a really good memory, really good graphics card, to show all of its capabilities. And on the other hand, the augmented reality devices, there are two devices we have worked with. One is the project Tango by Google, which is like a tablet, and it has some sensors on the back. So, for example, there is a depth camera, an infrared sensor, and some other sensors that make it possible for the device to scan the surroundings. And you can walk through the room with the device and it detects where it is in the room and where are any objects in the room. And then you can place 3D objects in the room, for example, on a table, on the floor. You can walk around, the objects will stay at the same position all the time. And also, just last week, Lenovo, which is partnering with Google, announced that they will have a mobile phone later this year with all the technology included. We also have in the Tango development device. So there will be more augmented reality games, for example, just for normal mobile phones available. And the latest cool kid on the block is the Microsoft HoloLens, which we also have here. And by the way, Anna talked about this earlier, we have a D-shop open later today, and you will be able to try it out yourself. So make sure to stop by and get some augmented reality experiences. We have some introduction on the device, but we can also show you some of the showcases or of the prototypes we built in our team. Yeah, and the Microsoft HoloLens is, if you have tried it, it's just the best augmented reality device that's there at the moment. And it gives you the hands-free aspect, so you just put it on your head. It's a standalone Windows 10 computer. You don't need to connect it to any computer. You can walk around with it, and the scanning of the room is much better than you had it on the Project Tango. And the good thing about all of that is that all of the devices we just talked about support to have software programmed for it with Unity. Unity is a 3D gaming engine, and we also use it to build the software or our prototypes. And also just recently Google announced at Google I/O 3 weeks ago that they will also supporting Unreal Engine to build software for Tango. Yeah, and with all these technology we built some prototypes, but before we dig deeper into that, we will have a look at what SAP currently offers in this space, because there are actually 2 products available by SAP which also use augmented reality. And the first one is the SAP Augmented Reality Service Technician. It's basically a software where a service technician has a hands-free device, and he can do certain tasks. If he wants to see maybe some object he's currently working on, he can just display it on the device. And so this software only runs on so-called smart glasses like the Google Glass. And yeah, it's not yet available for the more advanced devices. And on the other hand, there is the SAP Augmented Reality Warehouse Picker, which supports warehouse workers by picking all the different items you might have ordered in an online store. And it also helps you by scanning the barcodes with the camera, which is in the glasses. And also you can give voice commands. For example, I want to pick the next item, and then it gives you directions where you need to go next to get the next item. Yeah, and these are the existing products, and David will show you a little bit more about what we built in the last year.
All right, thank you, Christoph. So as this is the HIVE event, it's a little bit more user or UX and design related. So I'm gonna talk, I will not dig deep into the use cases we're working on, but tell you a little bit what kind of also design related degrees of freedom these devices give you. So basically what you can see here, this is a picture we took with the Tango, and these devices, augmented reality devices, bring a lot of capabilities or have a lot of capabilities enabled by the sensors, stack. For example, they are very, very precise, able to locate themselves inside a room, for example, or do some object recognition, so they are able to scan the environment and see which physical objects are there. So that basically, and as soon as these devices get into this environment again, they are able to find themselves, so get their location based on this information. So what basically enables you to do that is, for example, place digital artifacts in a persistent way. That means if you're looking at this picture there right now, you can place some KPIs related stuff or some digital objects with live data in a room in a persistent way, and everybody who's walking in there, for example, can see the same digital object. These objects are not like static. These objects are live. You can just load the data, and the devices will recognize that these objects are in the room, and they will show it to you. So this, for example, enables you to think, or this, for example, you can think in a way of like collaboration, for example, where a lot of people with different devices can see the same objects, and you can share this information. And by the way, this is also with different angles. So if somebody looks from the opposite side, you would see this object from the opposite, basically, or not from the same perspective as you do there. Smart business KPIs, you can also use this in, for example, for IoT scenarios. And what it is, in this example, for example, the service technician is able to just place a KPI on the AC, and every time he walks or comes there again, he just looks at the AC and he can see this KPI. This KPI is live, and you can just replace this KPI, for example, with any other KPI. And I think what you see in this particular example, we try to bring this SAP Smart Business KPIs into the augmented reality world a little bit. So we do not just show like single value KPIs. We can see graphs or a little bit more complex data structures there as well. Another opportunity which is given you by this augmented reality devices Christoph just talked about is the space. You have basically an unlimited screen. Everything you can see is basically turned into a screen, and you have to think about new ways how you can use this big unlimited screen. What you see here is we build a 3D analytics application where you can have three-dimensional bubble charts, three-dimensional dynamic bubble charts with drill in, drill out, drill in, roll up, and you can choose you can change, for example, the dimensions as well. And you can place this bubble chart on any physical object which is recognized by the HoloLens, for example. And the interesting aspect here is also the bubble chart combines different ways how you can interact with this artifact. In this case, we have some voice commands integrated. For example, if you say, like, drop bubbles, the bubbles will fall down like balls and they will roll around. And this is really interesting because based on Unity or based on the Unreal Engine, you can also use very, very realistic physics in there. And yeah, you can turn this, you can just move it, for example, on your desk, and every time you're wearing glasses, you can see this bubble chart on your desk. And if you look at one of these particular bubbles, you also get a little bit more insight into that. And one of the last options, or one of the last aspects I want to talk about what we're doing is also it is not just about to place the content there and look at the content again. Based on in a combination of augmented reality and new technologies like machine learning, you can just have the machine interpret everything. You can see like the text directly augmented, or your viewport is what you see is automatically enriched with this additional information. What we just call an interactive whiteboard. What you see here is just the green. It's just what the machine recognizes, or the machine which has recognized the text, and it is augmented in your viewport. Alright, and now Christoph will talk about some challenges which are connected to that.
Yeah. So while we were building all this, we were facing some challenges. So one of the first challenges is the social acceptance. People might have noticed that the Google Glass was not very successful in the end because people always thought that they were filmed by other people wearing the Google Glass, and so the device was quickly banned from public places and so on. So especially if you look at the devices we have available now, like the HoloLens, which are very expensive, we currently see them more in a business context than in a consumer context. And especially if the employees of your company know that you provide really additional value with the device, then they might accept it more than if just someone wears it on the street outside. And while talking about additional value, this is also really important. It doesn't make sense to just place something in a three-dimensional room which also could be displayed just on your mobile device. So you really have to think about scenarios where it makes sense. And what we found out during our prototyping is that if you want to display any data in a three-dimensional room, it only makes sense if the data is three-dimensional by nature, or if you really use the spatial information that is available by the devices to display the data. For example, to display KPIs right there where they belong to. And another challenge we are facing with the HoloLens is the very limited viewport. So if you try the HoloLens out later, you will see that the objects are not augmented in your whole viewport. You only have like a small window in front of your face where you can see the objects. So it doesn't make sense to augment a really big object, because even if you would normally see the object with your eyes in your normal viewport, you would have to look around with the HoloLens. And so if you design any application for the augmented reality space with the current development devices, it really you really have to look at how big the objects are, that you can just see them without moving your head. Yeah, and with that we'll close our presentation. We would be very happy if we can discuss a little bit more about how we could leverage augmented reality, especially in a business context. So if you have any questions, you can ask them right now. You can also talk to us right after the talk, and we will also be available at the D shop later today to demo the HoloLens and show you also some other use cases or prototypes we built.
So we have another 5 minutes for questions. Questions? Anyone? Yes, in the back. Sorry, mic is working now. You can ask.
Yeah. So most of the use cases you showed seem like a cooler visualization. You kind of hinted at this. A cooler visualization of what you could already get on your phone or on your tablet or PC in terms of KPIs. Do you have any use cases that are exclusive to augmented reality or virtual reality, where it's not just a three-dimensional representation or an association? Because I can see companies thinking, I don't want to invest in this if it's just like, oh, I look at the building and I see a KPI, versus I look at my phone and I check which building it is and I see the same KPI. So.
Yeah, in general, I mean, one of the biggest benefits of using augmented reality, and especially in the form of glasses, is that your hands are free. So in a lab scenario, for example, you can just scan your surroundings or a service technician, and basically, it's right, you can have this information on your phone as well, but if the glasses are able to process all the information around you and just automatically offer you the information, this whole like handling the phone, for example, is not necessary anymore. So this is the IoT scenarios, service technician scenarios, lab scenarios, for example, are very, very valuable. And then it's also about like enriching your current situation. You don't want to handle a device all the time. So just think about, I mean, the devices are, this is just the first generation device, and we know exactly that, like what we just showed is the Magic Leap is working on something, Apple is investing big time. So the devices will be smaller and people will wear it, so it will come up with some additional information automatically, so you do not have to handle the additional device anymore. I think this is important.
Also in the context, if you're a worker somewhere where you cannot use your phone because your hands get wet all the time, or some things like that, you can just augment the information and then you don't need to drive your hands to look something up. So
it translates into saving time, which translates into more productivity. I'm just trying to like talk the language that businesses talk, like what's the bottom line, how is this going to make it so that they're paying less or they're spending less?
This for sure, I mean, saving time makes sense, this is for safety as well, but also like enriching your context, enriching the business context. I mean, we have programs or people working on like variable scenarios where you get like the information on the spot in your business context right now. And think about glasses, that works even better, because with variables you get like that.
Thanks.
One more?
So you showed this example with the container and the KPI projected onto the container. And my question is, how do you recognize that as a container? I mean, it's probably pretty trivial to recognize it as an object, 3D object, as a rectangle, whatever. But what makes it a container that is actually applicable for that KPI in your software? I mean, is it kind of hardwired, or do you have some kind of intelligent algorithm behind that makes it matching that?
So the example that we showed you, it's just using the spatial mapping capabilities of Google Tango. So it creates a three-dimensional point cloud, and it only knows that there is an object, but it doesn't know which object there is. On the other hand, with the whiteboard example we showed, we use really the camera of the device to take a picture, and then you can send a picture to some backend service to process it. For example, use machine learning, object recognition to detect what object that is, and then automatically place the tile there, for example. So in our use case, we showed you the tile was placed there manually. So we said we want to display the temperature there.
But just something to add there. I mean, you have a whole bunch of sensor information available. You can just look at all the location-based information like wireless LAN, MAC addresses. You can include GPS and also like a little bit, or like communication services like NFC, for example. If you have several IoT devices which are basically the same, and you're looking at them, and the machine will record, oh yeah, there are some IoT devices, but which is which? So this does not work, so you have to integrate additional information there as well, just like NFC tags, Bluetooth tagging or something like that. But this is a lot of including additional sensor information there. Yeah.
Awesome.